the Games. Manchester's confident that the '96 Olympics will make money. An area around the Manchester Ship Canal will be transformed, and the city hopes to make a profit of £2 billion.
And that's the news so far this morning. We're back at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Until then, goodbye.
Oh, baguettes, is it, Monsieur Neville? Very continental. Suppose the wife's taken up another cookery course?
No, I have.
Oh, and then what's in the Sawney? Jacques.
Oh, just some succulent, moist, tender roast beef, gently cooked with a deliciously aromatic whiskey sauce on a bed of crisp marsh, too.
Is that nouvelle cuisine, like?
Oh, Neville cuisine? No, leftovers.
You can't do better than beef.
The new four-wheel steer Honda Accord is arguably the world's most agile car. Small wonder then that it should appeal to the world's most agile minds. New Accord, agile power, engineered by Honda.
Call Chatback on 0898 228 333 and make new friends all over the UK. Just dial 0898 228 333.
Right then, I want all this lot delivered.
Milk
To all these places.
Yeah.
By then.
By then?
Uh-huh. And by then.
Now there are two kinds of businesses in Britain.
And you can deliver to all 10,000 addresses tomorrow. Ah. Right, these are going off. Before these go off,
Next month. Don't worry, I'm working on it. Hello? Hello?
Ah, right, you can do Stockholm tomorrow? Okay. Turin Tuesday, Winnipeg Wednesday. Smashing. Speak to you then.
Have I ever let you down? Well, apart from last time.
Hong Kong, Tokyo, and this one's for New York, okay?
Now there are two kinds of businesses in Britain. The ones that know about Parcel Force
I'll get them there. I'll get
and the ones that wish they did. Royal Mail Parcel Force. The power to deliver.
Worried about lingering odour? Stale smells? A bit of a pong?
Hello, good morning. You're watching Thames Television from London on Thursday the 15th of March. Our daytime entertainment starts at 9:25 this morning with the Pyramid Game, and at 9:55 you'll be able to catch up with all the latest local Thames news and weather reports. Right now, though, if we look at the Thames clock, we'll see the time is rapidly approaching 6 a.m. Time to hand over to TVM. I'm Sally McLaren. Have a great Thursday.
Hello, good morning. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday the 15th of March. I'm Linda Mitchell, standing in for Richard Keys, and you're watching Good Morning Britain from TVAM. The top news story: 2/3 of the electorate want Mrs Thatcher to resign as Prime Minister before the next election, according to a new opinion poll which puts Labour 21 percentage points ahead of the Conservatives. Sport and Desert Orchid seems to be the nation's favourite to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup today. The weather, a cloudy start in most parts of Britain, will give way to brighter spells as the day goes on. But now let's go over to Lisa Aziz for the first national and international news of the day. Good morning, Lisa.
Hello, Linda. Good morning. The news from TVAM on Thursday, the 15th of March. Government popularity has this morning suffered a double blow, with 2 opinion polls giving Labour a record lead over the Tories. An ITN poll in The Guardian shows Labour 21 points ahead on 52%, with the Conservatives on 31%. The Greens polled 6%, the Liberal Democrats 5%, and the SDP 4%. And an NOP constituency poll in the Daily Mail shows Labour 25 points ahead of the Tories, with the Mid-Staffordshire by-election a week away. Philippa Hassel reports.
This morning's Cabinet meeting is likely to produce some tough talking. Records show no government has dipped so low in popularity and won the next election outright. But although ministers may dismiss such figures, it's clear that worries over the economy and poll tax are wreaking havoc with the government's fortunes. Even more disturbing for the Prime Minister is the poll's claim that more than half of Britain's voters think she should resign immediately. But while party loyalists are rallying to her leadership, alarm is increasing that the government is now out of touch.
We have a very tough fighting leader, and I believe she will fight on. I hope she wins. Of course we want to see her win, but there must be changes in policy, and we are insisting on that.
And a buoyant Labour insists they now have the right formula to win.
The reality is that it's a marked improvement in the Labour Party, a consistent performance, and one that will be reflected in the by-election, and it's causing panic in the Tory party.
This latest grim news will do nothing to calm the party's already jangling nerves. And with Labour poised to continue its attack today on the health service reforms, the government has little time to steel itself before next week's crucial budget and Mid-Staffordshire by-election. Philippa Hassel, TVAM News, Westminster.
The American government has denied claims that it's responsible for a fire that has badly damaged a factory in Libya thought to manufacture chemical weapons. The factory at Rabta, 50 miles from Tripoli, has been burning since early yesterday. Libyan sources are blaming sabotage, and the country's border with Tunisia has been sealed. Here's our White House correspondent Anthony Dworkin.
The fire at Libya's controversial plant comes only a week after American officials charged that it was again being used to produce chemical weapons. The factory has been a continuing source of tension between the United States and Libya since its construction was disclosed 14 months ago. Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi has repeatedly claimed it produces only medical drugs, and last year opened the facility briefly to Western reporters. But the White House said last week that it believed around 100 canisters of poison gas are now stockpiled at the factory. At that time, a spokesman for President Bush refused to rule out a military strike. After the American claim, Colonel Gaddafi apparently stepped up security at Rabta in anticipation of a possible attack. But the White House say they played no part in setting this fire and have no idea whether any act of sabotage was responsible for the blaze. Anthony Dworkin, TVAM News, Washington.
In Kenya, 2 game park rangers have been arrested by British detectives investigating the murder of Julie Ward. Julie disappeared in September 1988 after her jeep broke down while on safari in the Masai Mara Game Reserve. Her burned remains were found in remote bushland. Her father, John Ward, has since fought for a proper inquiry into her death. His campaign led to the Kenyan President, Arap Moi, inviting Scotland Yard detectives to help in the investigation. The Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev looks set to become a Western-style president when the results of a parliamentary vote are announced later this morning. He's the only candidate for the job, as our Moscow correspondent Michael Voss reports.
Late last night, 2,000 Soviet MPs left the comfort of their modern parliament to cross a snow-filled courtyard within the Kremlin walls. It was an historic occasion, each deputy preparing to cast his secret ballot for president, though first they had to show their party cards, everyone that is, except the generals. But all this is about to change. After 3 days of fierce debate, Gorbachev has won everything he wants from Congress. 2 other people were nominated to run against him for president, but both declined. it's clear no one else wants the job and all the problems that go with it.
We have so much pain now, and so much hard situations that we need decisions. We need act under law.
It is extremely positive for our foreign relations, for the image of our country.
With just one candidate, this vote is simply a formality, and shortly Mikhail Gorbachev will be proclaimed President of the Soviet Union. Now his task is to turn this country around. Michael Voss, TVAM News in the Kremlin.
And that's the news so far this morning. We'll be back again at 6:30. Now though, back to Linda.
Lisa, thank you very much. Let's have a look at the weather now. This morning, Scotland and Northern Ireland will be cloudy with outbreaks of rain or drizzle, and fog is likely. Eastern areas could have some drier, brighter spells. Western parts of England and Wales will be cloudy with patchy drizzle and fog. The rest of the country will be cloudy in places, but bright or sunny spells will develop as the day goes on, especially over southeastern England. Strong winds are expected in the north and west. Not much change this afternoon, but the rain will turn to showers over northwest Scotland. Maximum temperatures vary from around 9 degrees centigrade, that's 48 degrees Fahrenheit in northern Scotland, to around 15 degrees centigrade, 59 Fahrenheit in southeast England. This evening, and we're told the rain will clear away slowly northwards, but drizzle will continue in western coastal areas. In the southeast, mist and fog patches are likely to develop. Weather's not that good, is it? So let's see what's on telly. And for the last week, the top 5 ITV programmes for the week ending March the 4th. In reverse order, they are number 5, This Is Your Life, Sir Harry Seacombe, former goon and everybody's favourite Welshman, I understand, proving a big draw there. Number 4, Home and Away, Monday's edition. Number 3, Coronation Street, Friday and Saturday. Number 2, Coronation Street again, Monday and Wednesdays. And number 1, Coronation Street, Wednesdays and Saturdays. Coronation Street being very popular there. Now I'm afraid viewers in the Dover area may lose their picture between 6:30 and 7:15 this morning because of essential engineering work on the transmitter, and apologies about that, but if you stay tuned later you shouldn't miss too much. Just looking at the papers, and the big story is the political one at the moment. You can see the Daily Telegraph. Labour poll lead soars as Tory MPs stage revolt. Most voters want Thatcher to go, according to The Independent. Now, according to the polls, they say that 2/3 of the electorate want Mrs Thatcher to resign as Prime Minister before the next general election. Now, that's according to a Guardian ICM poll. It says half want PM to resign now, which shows Labour a record 21 points ahead on 52%, with the Conservatives trailing on 31%. The Greens polled 6%, the Liberal Democrats 5%, and STP 4%. And an NOP poll for the Daily Mail, if you can just see this here, shows Labour set 20, can you see that, shock lead for Labour in by-election. It's set to seize the Tory stronghold of Mid-Staffordshire in next week's by-election. 55% are expected to vote Labour and only 30% Conservative. Well, with me now is our Chief Political Correspondent, Jerry Saylor. Good morning, Jerry. Now, is this a question of midterm blues or is it a major turning point?
Well, I think it's obviously very serious news for the government this morning. It's serious because the history books, first of all, tell us that any government which has fallen more than 20 percentage points behind the main opposition party has never won the subsequent election. So that's very bad news. Also, for Mrs Thatcher, it's not particularly good news. As you say, 50% of the electorate would seem to want her to go straight away, with 2/3 wanting her to go before the next election. This comes after last weekend's opinion polls amongst Conservative backbenchers, which showed as many as 1 in 4 wanted her to go. So all in all, it's pretty gloomy news this morning for the government.
Of course, it's not great timing, is it? I mean, here we are, we have a budget to come and a by-election for which people are not forecasting a good result for the Tories.
Well, exactly. That's why I think the next couple of weeks are going to be absolutely critical for the lifetime of this government and also for Mrs Thatcher herself. Because, as you say, we have next week the budget. All the indications are that John Major is going to have to take some pretty tough decisions in the budget, so it's not going to be one which is automatically going to be received as good news. And then on this week, we have the Mid-Staffordshire by-election. And as the Daily Mail opinion poll is suggesting this morning, it looks like there's been a massive swing to Labour. If those figures are confirmed, the Conservatives at present have a 14,500 majority in Mid-Staffordshire. But if those figures are confirmed, we're talking about the biggest by-election victory by Labour over the Conservatives since 1935. So again, a little bit of history in the making, and that's not going to help the Conservative nerves on the backbenchers.
It's pretty staggering, isn't it? Because when you consider the Guardian poll was taken last weekend, just after we saw the scenes at anti-poll tax demonstrations, and the Scargill affair, one would have thought that would have had some effect on Labour support.
Well, yes, particularly the poll tax protest, which, as you know, last week Kenneth Baker, the Conservative Party chairman, was trying to pin some of the blame on Militant and by association on Labour for the violent protests which we saw up and down the country outside town halls. But it didn't work because the opinion poll in the Guardian, as you say, was conducted at the weekend when the controversy over those poll tax protests was at its highest, and yet Labour support went up by 1 percentage point while the Conservatives dropped 5 percentage points. So it looks like the Conservatives are the ones who are losing most from the poll tax.
Do you think the dissent, the seeming dissent within the Tory party has had an effect? All this talk about backbench plots to oust Mrs Thatcher?
Well, I think it has to have an effect. Mrs Thatcher and her advisers moved very quickly on Monday and Tuesday, particularly at question time, to dismiss rumours of plots as being poppycock, bunkum and balderdash and all the rest of it. But it has to have an unsettling effect. I think there is a crisis of confidence amongst Conservative backbenchers at present. Politics operates on the basis of people feeling confident and strong. It's Labour who are in good form at present. They feel they're on a winning streak. The question is, have they peaked too soon? Can they maintain this? Because after all, the general election may be 2 years away, so it's a long time to try and keep in front. But for the moment, it is very difficult for the Conservatives, and the backbenchers feel very nervous, particularly those who are in marginal seats. They can see the type of protests and unease over the poll tax and high interest rates, and they know over the next couple of weeks it's unlikely to get any better, so they're a wee bit nervous.
Interesting times. Jerry Foley, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And of course, Jerry and the rest of our political staff will keep you ahead of events over the next few weeks. Now, after the break, we'll be talking to a man who believes that drink and work don't mix. So stay with us.
Whatever you do, don't run out of Post-it notes.
This is the nerve center of the logic. Hoover's latest washing machine. Its design is based on pure logic. Every function the result of applied logic. So the component that ensures outstanding cleaning results had to be a logical choice. Ariel Automatic. The vital component.
Motor insurance renewal? Don't. First, get a quote from the AA. Dial 100 and ask for free phone AA auto quote today.
Next week on TVAM, news, views and star entertainment. On Monday, Eartha Kitt and Val Doonican talk about their years at the top. There's a special budget preview on Tuesday with a full analysis the following morning. From Downing Street, we go to Hollywood, where Robert Osborne meets the stars at the Oscar nominees' lunch. We look at the latest Steven Spielberg movie, Always, chosen as this year's royal film. Plus Nana Muscuri rounding off a week you can't afford to miss. Watch TVAM all next week.
Welcome back. The top news story. 2/3 of the electorate want Mrs Thatcher to resign as Prime Minister before the next election, according to a new opinion poll which puts Labour 21 percentage points ahead of the Conservatives. Sport and Desert Orchid is the nation's favourite to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup today. Wonder what Jeff Denham says. And the weather. A cloudy start in most parts of Britain will give way to brighter spells as the day goes on. Time just coming up to about 6:15. Let me ask you a personal question. Will you be nipping out for a quick drink this lunchtime? No harm in that, I can hear you say. But research shows that your job could suffer if you do. A pint at lunchtime may reduce your efficiency in the afternoon by up to 15%. And it's been estimated that about 14 million working days are lost each year because of the effects of drink. Later today, the Health Education Authority launches a campaign to warn people that alcohol and work don't mix. But some firms, like Courtaulds, have already taken action, as Kay Oliver now reports.
British industry is keeping a close eye on this Courtaulds acetate plant in Derby. 2,300 staff on site, including management, have been told they could be asked to take a breathalyzer test if they're suspected of being the worst for drink. In a plant where highly dangerous chemicals are used, Courtaulds feel the ban on drink is vitally important to maintain safety standards.
Alcohol and work basically don't mix. We spend a great deal of time and money on improving safety standards in the factory, and we feel that this is an area which we should pay some attention to.
From a union point of view,
anything that reduces the risk of accident on this site to our members, we've got to support.
But despite virtually unanimous support for the scheme, there has been a mixed reaction on the shop floor.
People like to go out and have a drink at lunchtime. Why should it affect them coming back onto the site?
I certainly do, yes. Because we're working in a chemical plant, like, you've got to have your wits about you.
Courtaulds believe they could be leading the way in tackling a problem which is proving costly to British industry.
Interesting story there. Kay Oliver reporting. Well, joining me now is Ray Erica, the manager of the Health Education Authority scheme we mentioned just before the film. Good morning to you, Ray.
Morning.
What did you think of the Courtauld scheme there?
Well, I think we would agree with the basic message, which says that alcohol and work just don't mix. Courtaulds, of course, are a special company, as I think that the chap was saying. Safety is a prime consideration in the chemical industry. For most companies, of course, it's not such a consideration, and I would say that perhaps the technique they're using there is not so appropriate. Our concern is everyday drinking in everyday workplaces.
How much alcohol are you talking about there, everyday drinking?
Well, I think I say everyday drinking as it affects everybody. That can mean as little as a pint of beer at lunchtime.
What sort of effects are we talking about?
Well, we've done some tests which show that before a glass of beer or 2 glasses of beer, a person can do their job more efficiently before than afterwards, and efficiency can be reduced, as you said in your report, by up to 15%.
Now, it's interesting that there was a mixed reaction amongst the workers there. Some people said, yes, I'm worried mistakes can happen. Other people said, well, it's nice to go out for a drink. You can see that it does build up the team spirit, and surely that could improve efficiency.
Absolutely, and we're very keen not to discourage people from going down the pub or having the sort of conviviality that tends to go with a drink. But nowadays it's possible to do that by all the sort of non-alcohol alternatives that you can drink in the pub. So you can have not just an orange juice, but you can have a low-alcohol beer or lager, have the atmosphere, have the conviviality, and still go back to work in the afternoon and do your job properly.
Now, I can imagine the approach of the employer is going to be crucial in this. You can't be too heavy-handed, can you?
No, indeed, that's right. And I mean, what we're saying at our conference today is that people have a variety of things they can do. The first thing we're asking employers to do is to examine their own practices in respect of alcohol. For example, when does the director's cocktail cabinet open? Do they serve beer in the canteen, for example? So looking at these things, first of all, can make a difference. And I think you've got to carry the staff along with you when you do this.
It was interesting you mentioned the cocktail cabinet as opposed to the bar, because there does seem to be this division, doesn't there, between the shop floor. When does a cocktail or a whiskey help along a business deal, and when does a pint hinder efficiency?
That's right. I mean, the research that was commissioned for our conference, which we're holding later today, showed two attitudes. One set of companies seemed to suggest that they sort of hung on to alcohol as an essential part of hospitality, but other companies had taken the big step, if you like, and not served alcohol when they have guests or customers or clients to lunch or whatever. And that had in fact gone down extremely well with the customers and clients. So it was a very positive message that was coming through.
So it's obviously sort of moderation at all times. Ray Erica, thank you very much. And talking of moderation at all times, here's the man, the paragon of moderation.
Yes, indeed.
Charles Brandreth.
Sober-faced, sober-suited, but high as a kite inside. It's all done just by smiling. But that's very interesting. Yesterday I was with a couple of high-powered businessmen. One of them admitted to me that he'd been involved in a very big deal, and he'd deliberately plied with drink the other side, and the other side had plied him with drink. Eventually they'd done the deal, gone home, and neither of them could remember what the deal was. And so they had to wait till the next day and phone each other up and come clean and negotiate all over again. Moderation in all things. But it's interesting that we should be talking about that today because, as you would imagine, the Good Morning Britain viewers, well, they're ahead of the game. Because listen to this first letter that we've got. Because today is the morning after No Smoking Day, but Alan Chambers of Glasgow, well, he's here with this suggestion: a National No Drinking Day. In my experience, he writes, excessive consumption of alcohol can cause as much damage and disease as smoking. It can ruin your health, it can do terrible things to your wealth, and it can destroy your happiness. I believe it's time we encourage people to get off the booze. Well, there you are, you see. Could have written from the Health Education Council, couldn't he?
Absolutely.
Yes. Of course, the difference, I think, between smoking and drinking is that smoking is difficult to do in moderation, whereas drinking, it is possible to be a social drinker, isn't it, and just have the occasional drink without being totally hooked.
That's right, and I mean, perhaps I can respond to that by saying, of course, we're not having a no drinking day, but on June the 12th we are having Drinkwise Day, which is encouraging everybody in the country to think about their drinking.
June the 12th?
June the 12th.
We'll be there.
I'll make a note.
Well, let's turn now from booze to the news. And Marjorie Banks of Swinton in Wiltshire, she thinks we get too much of it. Every day we're bombarded with news from around the world, almost all of it very depressing. I find it very upsetting to see pictures day after day of war-torn cities in the Middle East, when I know that not only can I do nothing about it, but governments in the West really can't do anything about it. Does this endless news coverage make the world in any way a happier place? Well, I'm delighted to report that Pete Hoskins of London SC23 can cope with the news on TVAM because it's read by Lisa Aziz, the best newsreader in the business. Clear, crisp, intelligent, always smartly presented, a true professional doing a first-class job.
Here, here.
P.S. She's also incredibly attractive, but that's got nothing to do with it. Quite right, it's neither here nor there. Or is it? Mrs. Vivian Smith of Cardiff wants us to know that I'm a 49-year-old housewife who suffers from insomnia and watches your program from 6 a.m. every day. Because I'm an insomniac and because I'm 49, I'm here to tell you I look a horror at 6 in the morning, and I just wish that all the lovely ladies on your program could look like horrors too. Everyone turns up on the show looking so damn perfect. Couldn't you get the girls to come on one morning without any makeup? It would give the rest of us such a boost. Oh, believe you me, madam, it would give you a terrible shock. No, I'm only joking, Linda. But Emma Farris of Caversham in Berkshire is in no laughing mood. She watched Transport Secretary Cecil Parkinson, who was David Frost's guest on Sunday morning, and was not impressed. This country does not need any more roads, tunnels, railway lines across open land. We have got a perfectly good transport network if only we would give the money to service it properly. We don't need more roads. We need more and better buses using the bus lanes. We don't need more railway lines. We need more and better trains travelling more frequently. Alan Taylor, a viewer from Birmingham, was outraged by Mr. Parkinson's suggestion that he wasn't in a position to restrict people in the way they use their cars. Why not? In any civilized society, there are all sorts of restrictions on our freedom. There are too many cars on our roads and in our major towns, and we need to reduce their numbers. Well, Britain, if you have solutions to the nation's transport problems, or if you've views or news you want to share with Britain's early risers, all you need to do is drop a line to this telling address. Postbag, TVAM, Camden Lock, London, NW1 8TQ. Well, time now for our Thursday morning nugget of worldly wisdom. This gem comes from Colin Bakewell of Shrewsbury. The first thing needed to make a dream come true is to wake up. Oh. It says something, not quite sure what it says, but it says something. This one comes from Alison Dexter of Cambridge. No one would listen to you talk if they didn't know it was their turn next. Do you think it's rather neat?
Thank you. What do you think it says about me, Giles?
Well, it is your turn now, isn't it? Well done.
Well, actually, thank you very much, Giles, and the America Health Education Authority. It's actually Russell's turn, and if it's your birthday, you share it with two pop stars, Terence Trent D'Arby, who's 28, and Ry Cooder, who's 43. Here's Russell.
Hiya, gang. Pisces. Daydream by all means. But to make your hopes and wishes come true, you'll need to be a much more practical and pragmatic Pisces today. Aries, you know there's a time and place for everything, and this is neither the time nor place to speak out of turn. Watch what you say today. Taurus, any effort is a supreme feat of endurance for you now, and yet your ambitions may falter unless you keep up the pressure. Gemini, a person who gives you advice may need their brains testing, or so it seems. You know, it could be they're more wily and wise than you first realized. Cancer, you should spend more time doing what brings you pleasure today, from enjoying the company of the family to attending to your favorite hobbies or pastimes. Leo, you'll have to make a decision about your professional finances soon, but be sure to discuss your choice with your other half first. Virgo, the appliance of science is all set to have a major impact on your life. So how's about looking into a new gadget or implement? Go on, it won't bite. Libra, money can't buy you love. Now remember that before you start lashing out your loot. Take a long, hard look at money and amour. Scorpio, Or you have a powerful psychic ability today that allows you to tune into so many hidden happenings and situations. You know what? You've X-ray vision. Sagittarius, leave your checkbook, credit card or cash at home. You can't be trusted to window shop because you'll end up buying the whole store. Capricorn, you have a sixth sense when it comes to help and sympathy now, and you'll come running when someone needs your compassion and kindness. What a nice person you are. Aquarius, nothing defeats you now, for setbacks only strengthens your resolve. You'll succeed through sheer guts, grit and determination. See ya.
Grit and determination. Thank you, Russell. Now, we're afraid viewers in the Dover area may lose their picture between 6:30 and 7:15 this morning because of essential engineering work on the transmitter. We're sorry about that, but you might just catch our next slot, which is our dog spot. And today we're looking at the vexed question of diet. With so many recent food safety scares, it can be difficult to know what is safe or unsafe to eat. This morning we're joined by Michael Van Straten, who giving us some advice for a healthy, balanced diet. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Linda.
Now, what do you actually mean by a balanced diet?
Well, what we're looking at here is the sort of way you can eat to avoid one of the worst problems of our society today, and that's heart disease. And we're looking at nothing extreme, but just simple changes to the way in which people eat. People get lots and lots of messages, and everyone says, you must eat this, you must eat that, you mustn't eat this, you mustn't eat that. And the answer is actually much simpler than that. You don't have to be absolutely rigid. You have to make very simple changes to the way most people eat, sadly in our country today, to reduce your likelihood of getting too much cholesterol in your blood, which is one of the key factors in the cause of heart disease.
So what should we be looking to include in our diet?
Well, if we look at my basket, a rather new large basket this morning, big subject, so we had to get a bigger basket. The things we should be eating more of are particularly fish, and particularly the oily fish. Now, people think about fish as being horribly expensive, but if you look here, that's a mackerel. Isn't that beautiful? I went to my fishmonger yesterday. I bought 4 large herrings, 2 big mackerels, and 6 sardines, and the whole lot was £6. Now, that's enough to feed 4 people. That quantity would be enough oily fish for a family of 4 for a week. 2 helpings of oily fish a week is what we really need.
Right. Now, I noticed you've got a chicken there.
We've got a chicken. That's a lovely free-range, corn-fed chicken. You can see it's bright yellow in the skin. That comes from the corn, not from anything nasty in it. Chicken is a wonderful source of protein. It's very low in fat, particularly free-range chicken, because it's walking about, it burns up its fat more. Take the skin off, grill it, or roast it on a trivet so all the fat drips through, so you're not cooking it in its own juices. Then add lots of fibre, wholemeal bread, beans. I've got a wonderful collection of beans here. Sadly, it's only half a jar. I dropped the rest all over my kitchen floor at 4:30 this morning. But all the sort of beans, they contain lots of fibre, lots of protein, all the things which help to reduce cholesterol levels.
Now, looking around people's supermarket baskets, they do tend to go for the right things, but perhaps prepare them in the wrong way.
Yes.
What would you say?
That's olive oil. Now, that's a good, pure, simple olive oil. If you're going to cook with oil, use olive oil, because it's much healthier. It actually helps to reduce the amount of cholesterol, but most important of all, put lots of garlic in the cooking, back to our old friend garlic, because that does help to cut down the amount of cholesterol which your body stores up.
Smashing. So some useful hints there. Thank you very much, Michael Van Straten. And of course, Michael will be back with us just after 8:30 news with plenty more tips for a healthy lifestyle. Let's have a look at the weather now. And this morning, Scotland and Northern Ireland will be cloudy with outbreaks of rain or drizzle, and fog is likely. Eastern areas could have some drier, brighter spells. Western parts of England and Wales will be cloudy with patchy drizzle and fog. The rest of the country will be cloudy in places, but bright or sunny spells will develop as the day goes on, especially over southeastern England. But please be careful. Strong winds are expected in the north and west. Coming up in the next half an hour, we have fun in the winter sun in Dorset. We also have our regular parliamentary report, and we limber up with Lizzie. But now the time is just coming up to 6:30. That means it's time to go over to Lisa Aziz for the latest national and international news. Good morning, Lisa.
Hello, good morning. Government popularity has this morning suffered a double blow, with 2 opinion polls giving Labour a record lead over the Tories. An ITN poll in The Guardian shows Labour 21 points ahead on 52%, with the Conservatives on 31%. The Greens polled 6%, the Liberal Democrats 5%, and the SDP 4%. And an NOP constituency poll in the Daily Mail shows Labour 25 points ahead of the Tories, with the Mid-Staffordshire by-election a week away. Philippa Hassel reports.
This morning's Cabinet meeting is likely to produce some tough talking. Records show no government has dipped so low in popularity and won the next election outright. But although ministers may dismiss such figures, it's clear that worries over the economy and poll tax are wreaking havoc with the government's fortunes. Even more disturbing for the Prime Minister is the polls claim that more than half of Britain's voters think she should resign immediately. But while party loyalists are rallying to her leadership, alarm is increasing that the government is now out of touch.
We have a very tough fighting leader, and I believe she will fight on. I hope she wins. Of course we want to see her win, but there must be changes in policy, and we are insisting on that.
And a buoyant Labour insists they now have the right formula to win.
The reality is that it's a marked improvement in the Labour Party, a consistent performance, and one that will be reflected in the by-election, and it's causing panic in the Tory party.
This latest grim news will do nothing to calm the party's already jangling nerves. And with Labour poised to continue its attack today on the health service reforms, the government has little time to steel itself before next week's crucial budget and Mid-Staffordshire by-election. Philippa Hassel, TVAM News, Westminster.
The American government has denied claims that it's responsible for a fire that has badly damaged a factory in Libya thought to manufacture chemical weapons. The factory at Rabta, 50 miles from Tripoli, has been burning since early yesterday. Libyan sources are blaming sabotage, and the country's border with Tunisia has been sealed. Here's our White House correspondent, Anthony Dworkin.
The fire at Libya's controversial plant comes only a week after American officials charged that it was again being used to produce chemical weapons. The factory has been a continuing source of tension between the United States and Libya since its construction was disclosed 14 months ago. Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi has repeatedly claimed it produces only medical drugs, and last year opened the facility briefly to Western reporters. But the White House said last week that it believed around 100 canisters of poison gas are now stockpiled at the factory. At that time, a spokesman for President Bush refused to rule out a military strike. After the American claim, Colonel Gaddafi apparently stepped up security at Rabta in anticipation of a possible attack. But the White House say they played no part in setting this fire and have no idea whether any act of sabotage was responsible for the blaze. Anthony Dworkin, TVAM News, Washington.
The Transport Secretary Cecil Parkinson is under pressure from Labour to make a common statement into a near accident on the London Underground. A train carrying 800 commuters stopped 400 feet from colliding with another train at King's Cross Station. Mantesh Diol reports.
A full investigation is underway by London Transport into how two trains ended up heading towards each other on the same stretch of this track. Disaster was only averted when one of the drivers managed to cut off the line's power supply. London Underground admit collision warning lights recommended after a similar incident 2 years ago are only now being installed.
It was a fault on the part of London Underground that recommendation was not followed through to an adequate conclusion.
But one of the drivers involved says more staff on trains is the answer.
I feel that at King's Cross, that particular incident, a guard and a driver both making a mistake of that magnitude would have been inconceivable.
London Underground is to introduce warning lights in 60 of its stations. This latest incident will once again raise doubts over the safety of the Underground, which carries nearly 3 million passengers every day. Mantesh Diol, TVAM News, Central London.
On to the financial news now. And in London, the 100-share index closed up 2 points at 22.26. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones closed up 13 points at 26.87. In Tokyo, the Nikkei average has closed up 319 points at 32.671. On to the currencies, and the dollar's mixed in the Far East overnight at 171 against the Deutschmark, 162.50 against the yen, and 160.85 against the pound. Sterling itself is down against the Deutschmark at 275.05. Gold is down at $397.65 an ounce, and the US long bond is stronger at 98.25. That's a yield of 8.61%. Now sport, and today's the last day of the Cheltenham Festival, with Desert Orchid tipped to take the Gold Cup for the second time. Desi, who's the 11-8 odds-on favourite and the most popular horse since Red Rum, has won 30 of his 60 races. If he wins today, it could cost the bookmakers around £8 million. Football now, and in the FA Cup Second Division, Oldham have continued their remarkable season by beating league leaders Aston Villa 3-0 to reach the semi-finals for the first time in 77 years. Oldham are already playing at Wembley this year in the final of the Littlewoods Cup. In the FA Cup's other quarter-final match, Peter Beardsley scored Liverpool's goal in their 1-0 win over Queen's Park Rangers. Finally, boxing, and British heavyweight champion Gary Mason scored his 34th consecutive victory by outpointing the American Everett Martin over 10 rounds at the Royal Albert Hall. Now 6:36, back to Linda.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning to you, and good morning to Pete Hoskins of London SE23, who wrote to Giles to say how much he enjoyed Lisa's news reading. It's nice to know, isn't it? Racing today, and it's a big day at Cheltenham with action also at Hexham. The going news, well, Hexham report good to soft, and the word from Cheltenham is that it's good. As for the tips, well, our boy Jeff Stelling has decided to play it safe with the big one. He goes for everybody's favourite, Desert Orchid, in the 3:30 Gold Cup at Cheltenham. Desert Orchid, 3:30 at Cheltenham. And at the dogs, Mike Palmer tips Countess Pippa in the 8 o'clock at Wimbledon. That's Countess Pippa, 8 o'clock Wimbledon, out of trap 6. It's just coming up to about 37 minutes past 6, which is about 23 minutes to 7, isn't it, if my maths is right? That means it's time for this. Welcome back, and welcome also to Fun in the Sun. Think of holidays in Britain, and you'll probably be thinking of June and July, the seaside and country picnics. Well, the other picture, of course, is traffic jams and crowds of people all trying to go on holiday at once. Well, Nikki Fox went to Dorset and discovered that there are distinct advantages to picking the winter months during this holiday.
It's easy to forget that the English countryside in winter isn't always bleak and miserable. In fact, I think I prefer it this way. Nobody around. Far from the madding crowd, you could say. This is Dorset, part of Old Wessex, which was the setting for Thomas Hardy's poetry and novels. He would have been 150 this year, so there'd be lots going on by way of a sort of posthumous birthday party. The anniversary makes his cottage at Higher Bockhampton an essential visit. This is where Hardy was born, and that could have been the end of the story, because the baby was thrown aside as dead. But the quick-witted nurse noticed him moving, and Thomas Hardy was saved. He went on to live for nearly 88 years. So, we nearly never knew Pet of the D'Urbervilles, the Mayor of Castlebridge, from that whole madding crowd. Now, Mr. Hardy, how about some inspiration for my postcard? Every townie's dream of a country cottage. Kate's cottage here at Shappit in Dorset is all mine, just for the weekend. She even got me indulging in a spot of Wessex needlecraft. Doing a little light reading. And generally just winding down. There's some aspects of cottage life which take a bit of getting used to. Shepherd's pie, 25 minutes. For fragile townies, all more coals are provided. And when self-catering gets too much, most Dorset pubs do a pretty good shepherd's pie. Hang around in the pub all day. I've got some hardy locations for this spot. countryside getting riddled with places that Hardy wrote about, those characters, this and that. This is where they filmed the Mayor of Casterbridge. All I had to do is paint out the yellow lines and they were back in time again.
And let's not forget the coast. Dorset has that in pretty good measure as well as the countryside.
It was here in Lulworth Cove that Sergeant Troy made his mysterious disappearance in Faster Than the Madding Crowd.
I love it. Nicky Fox there in beautiful Thomas Hardy country. Now, Nicky rented Kate's cottage there in Dorset from Country Holidays. They do a special rate for winter weekends, which apply until April the 7th. 3 nights will cost you from £40 to £138. Kate's cottage, by the way, was £100 and could have slept 5 people, so that's a pretty good price there. Now, Country Holidays can send you their brochures or find you a cottage according to your requirements if you call this number. That's 0282 44 5566. 0282 44 5566. And there are several companies who also offer cottage holidays. They include Blake's, English Country Cottages, and the English Tourist Board, who do a brochure called Home from Home, which is available from most local tourist information centres. All this and more, as usual, in the famous Fun in the Sun fact sheet, which is free to you from Fun in the Sun fact sheet, would you believe, TVAM, Hawley Crescent, London, NW1 8TQ. Or you can also phone our hotline on 0898 500 150, 0898 500 150. Now, tomorrow on Fun in the Sun, we're going exotic again when we join Rusty Lee in the Island in the Sun, Jamaica. And this time, she's searching out the ingredients for a very special Jamaican meal, the national dish, ackee and saltfish. Now, after the break, Maya Even will be here with Westminster Watch, so stay with us.
Whatever you do, don't run out of post-it notes.
She was around at the time of Waterloo, you know. Survived the Industrial Revolution.
Really?
Oh, yes. Then came through 2 world wars. And a depression.
You look very depressed now, I must say.
No.
Scottish Widows has been going from strength to strength for over 175 years, which might come as a bit of a blow for the competition.
Boy, oh boy, that looks just like a quaver. Hey, this one smells like a quaver. I wonder if they taste like quavers. They are quavers. Quavers. Watch out, they taste curly.
Motor insurance renewal? Don't. First, get a quote from the AA. Dial 100 and ask for free phone AA auto quote today.
This Sunday, as opposition to the poll tax continues to grow, I'll be asking what is Labour's alternative. Brian Gould is the man who gave the Labour Party its new rosy image. Now, as the party's environment spokesman, he has to convince the voters that Labour's so-called roof tax will be fairer and more efficient. That's Labour's answer to the poll tax. David Frost on Sunday, this Sunday at 8. TVAM.
Welcome back to Good Morning Britain. Thank you for joining us. The top news story. 2/3 of the electorate want Mrs Thatcher to resign as Prime Minister before the next election, according to a new opinion poll which puts Labour 21 percentage points ahead of the Conservatives. sport, and Desert Orchid is the nation's favourite to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup today. And the weather, a cloudy start in most parts of Britain, will give way to brighter spells as the day goes on. Now, our report of what's been going on in Parliament. After a brief break, which ended a 23-hour marathon session, MPs showed little signs of tiring in the row over plans to reorganise the National Health Service. Here's our political reporter, Maya Even. Good morning, Maya.
Good morning, Linda. Labour's Roy Hattersley, satisfied about this morning's Guardian poll showing a 21-point Labour lead over the Conservatives, asserted that the government was in disarray and turmoil. But the main impression of disarray yesterday came from the Commons itself, where the government's imposition of a time limit on the Health Service Bill debate provoked uproar from all parts of the House. Opposition MPs used every imaginable tactic to try and have the bill talked out. For a century, members have been able to raise points of order during the vote, but only by wearing a top hat. The Commons topper was soon being passed from head to head. Hot under the wig himself, the Speaker, Bernard Wetherill, uttered the phrase which has been invoked only 4 other times this century: grave disorder. He adjourned the whole sitting. When MPs returned to start last night's session on the bill, it was the new time limit on the debate, known as the guillotine, rather than the bill's contents, which concerned members. But the Health Secretary dismissed the early disruption by the opposition as pure machismo.
They did not want to debate the bill. They wanted to show they were capable of making long speeches at the small hours of the morning.
There is one ballot which the ministers cannot guillotine. It is the ballot in the forthcoming general election, when democracy will take its revenge for how they rammed this bill through the House.
Mr. Cook claimed that the guillotine would leave 285 minutes to debate 252 new clauses and amendments. But a guillotine must be also debated and voted on, and MPs from all sides made their displeasure clear. One Tory had in mind a revered political maxim. He disagreed with what his opponents said, but he defended their right to say it.
I have said, in the Houses of Parliament, there will be opportunity to move, consider and debate amendments to this legislation, and even if I don't agree with the points that you're making, I am certain they can be debated in this chamber, and if not here, where else?
A government with an overall majority of 100, a majority over Labour of 150, is using their powers in an abusive way of our parliamentary legislation. It's time it was stopped, and I hope a lot of people vote against this guillotine motion tonight, including Tories.
We have now an ideal opportunity to ensure that people can benefit not only from enhanced care in the health service, from a better quality, from better patient care, from more efficient and effective services, but also in the community, which is such an enormously important area that local authorities have that opportunity to actually take up that challenge.
The question is the guillotine motion as on the order paper. Many that opinion say aye. The contrary, no. Clear the lobby.
And it was the vote the government won, which meant all the remaining stages of the health bill were dealt with just after midnight. Health ministers expressed regret at using the guillotine, but added that Labour employed the same tactic many times when in government. As Big Ben sounded the new day, the opposition doggedly pushed on with its last efforts to alter the bill.
We, in presenting these new clauses, are giving the Secretary of State, at not even the 11th hour, but almost as we approach the 12th hour, the opportunity to show just a little generosity.
If they wish to divide on this particular new clause, I trust it will be rejected as wholly inadequate to the challenges facing the National Health Service, which will actually be addressed more properly by our reforms once they're implemented, which they will be soon, on time, beginning in April 1991, and a better National Health Service will begin to be delivered.
Mr. Clark?
That was as unsatisfactory as the rest of his speech as I asked the House to divide.
Was to be just one of many late-night divisions the government won. The health bill will now reach its final common stage in a few hours' time when MPs vote on a third reading. In addition, Mrs Thatcher will be in the chamber to face what's certain to be a difficult session of questions. That's all from Parliament for this morning, though now it's back to Linda.
Maya, thank you very much. After the break, Lizzie Webb will be here to shake it all about. Okay, so stay with us.
and back and put the freshness back.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
If a fish has fingers, why not feet? I'll tell you why not. Because we think fish should look like fish. Golden fishes are shaped like cod. And they are cod. You golden fishes from Norfolk Bay. More like a fish than a finger.
Surf Automatic has the cleaning power to remove really stubborn dirt and stains at low temperatures. To leave your clothes really fresh. So, for outstanding low temperature cleaning, get Surf Automatic in powder and liquid. Get surfing.
Togs would like to demonstrate the advantages of their latest nappy. The only nappy with revolutionary ultra-absorbent wetness barriers. There's simply no better way to prevent a leakage at the leg. So let's put it to the test. Full marks. Togs. In our opinion, the ultimate design in nappies.
Hello, I'm the little peckish.
Oh? Do you have an appointment?
Not to my knowledge. Good morning.
Little Peckish, you're early today.
No thoughts, please.
Cool, light, dairy rice. For when the Little Peckish comes.
Try this. Muller rice with raspberries in syrup. See you tomorrow.
Muller rice. Cool, light, dairy rice. From Muller.
JP, the number one nut. Why settle for less? Less.
The first was a fight for his teacher. The second was a fight for his honor. Now he must face his greatest challenge.
Your karate's a joke. Come on, come on! Yes!
The Karate Kid, Part 3. The legend lives on.
Let a Pearl pension help look after the fundamental things. Dial 100 and ask for a free phone Pearl now.
It always has been and always will be the world's best loved marmalade.